What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Game Week 13 deadline stream. Welcome, guys, to 1.5 hours just before the deadline kind of sets in. We are back with another deadline stream on the channel. So, welcome to all of you who've joined us today. Guys, make sure that you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new around here, or if you've not done that so far. It generally really helps us, get traction, get more people, get more followers, and just to get, some kind of conversations going. How are you doing today? I know it's been it feels like it's been really quick since the last game week went, and we've not really seen a lot of Of course, we've seen a lot of things happening during the week in terms of injuries, in terms of player movements. The Champions League matches were really good this time around. We got a few injury troubles as well, so we'll kind of discuss that in today's stream. We'll talk about replacements. Of course, you all must be knowing that Chilwell is out at least for 6 weeks. So we'll be talking about certain replacements. We'll be talking about which players to kind of go for. We'll also be talking a little bit meta in terms of strategy, in terms of how or what you should do for the upcoming game weeks. How what is basically happening for the Liverpool game as well, as Shen just mentioned. So whether the Liverpool game is happening or not, I'm not a weather expert. I'm not a weather forecaster at all. So we'll just kind of get to see what news is there on Twitter, and we'll kind of follow up from there. Hello again to all of you. So if you're here for the first time, if you don't know how this works, we basically try to take up questions, try to take up teams. In case you wanna rate your team, get your team rated. In case if you wanna check your transfers in terms of what moves to be done, if you have not done them so far, please feel free to add that in the chat, add that in the comments below. You can also add anything if you want in terms of whether it's a feedback, whether it's any news or any information that you get, and I think it'll be really helpful for all of us. So we'll kind of take it from there, and we'll hello to all of you. Hello to Joel. Welcome to the stream, mate. Brian, hi again. Welcome to the stream to you too. Craig, hi. Is it true that there's a chance that Liverpool game can be postponed due to weather? That means we can lose all the points from Liverpool players. So generally, how at least from the COVID spectacle or matches being cancelled earlier as well, what I can tell you is that there are rumors that Liverpool's game could be postponed. Again, as I said earlier, I'm not a weather expert at all, but the conversations that I've been reading on Twitter says that it should be okay. The storm might all again. Everyone's speculating right now. Nobody is a weather forecaster, right? So there is a chance that it can get cancelled. There is a chance that it also goes through smoothly, that the storm might pass and all of that stuff. I'm not gonna really delve into details about what's gonna happen there. But in case if that happens, in case if the Liverpool game is called off, there should be a double game week for Liverpool. Now, when is that double game week? I'm not really sure. Probably, a little later, probably after the Christmas period, because this particular schedule for the next 30 days, right? It is very packed. So I don't think so. Liverpool will be able to add another game in this schedule. So I think in that case, it should happen sometime in January. I think that's the earliest that I can say. But again, if you have Liverpool players, probably of course you'll play all them. You of course will captain Salah if you've already decided to captain Salah. I don't think so. This particular news should really affect you in terms of captaining a different player. I'll just say one piece of advice I think that could be okay for now is that don't vice captain a Liverpool player. In case if you plan to vice captain Trent or maybe a Jota, maybe you have Mane in your team. So don't vice captain a Liverpool player in case, just in case if Salah doesn't really show up and the match doesn't happen, then at least your vice captain can be your captain and can give you some decent points, right? But I think rest should be okay. We'll see how what happens, and if the game gets cancelled, we'll get a double game week. Hi Nigel, hello to you. Shine, hi. Many rumors that I think let's see what happens. Could get cancelled, could even go ahead as planned. Nigel, you're saying that you're using your wildcard, planned 3 teams. Please suggest. Okay, so we have a lot of teams here. The first team is Ramsdale defense. You have Trent, Cancelo, Reguilon, Salah, Son, Gallagher, Jota, Buemo. Among forwards, you have Jimenez and Wang. Subs, you have Foster, Dennis, White, Rudiger. I think in terms of getting a Chelsea defender, right? You already have 3 decent defenders, and I'll probably would want to get James instead of Rudiger. I think if you only have one defender, you rather would have James, who has the higher attacking upside, right? So this particular draft, I think James is the one who I would want to get. I'm not even sure about White. I think I'm not sure about Lamptey's price and White, if there's a difference between them, but I think Lamptey could be a decent pick. The second team is Trent Cancelo Regulon, which is the same defense. You have Salah, Bernardo, Gallagher, Jota, Buemo. So basically, you don't have Son in this one, and the rest is same. You among forwards you have Wadi and Wang. I prefer this one to the above one, to be very honest. I think this is a lot better. But yeah, I think I would really want to get, if I'm really going for a Tottenham player, I would probably want to get Kane right now, because as what we've seen so far, of course, his international break, the international form that he's showing, that keeping that aside, he's still doing okay. I think he's done a little better than Son. Of course, Tottenham have been really bad. Even under Conte, they've not been that great. The second half, I know a lot of people are talking about the second half of Leeds and how the match was, and suddenly, of course, I was one of them who got the transfer to Kane this particular week. But I still feel having Kane makes a lot more sense. The third draft that you have has Bernardo. I really like Bernardo, to be very honest. I think a couple of your drafts have Bernardo, and I genuinely think that not a lot of people are talking about Bernardo Silva. If you're okay taking the slightly differential route, if you're okay taking a bit of a risk, if you can afford him, of course. Let's say if you have Foden, probably you play Foden or you keep Foden. But in general, I think I really like Bernardo. So I think I probably, again, I'm not very very confident about Wadi. So I'll probably in all these drafts I'll probably try to include Kane instead of Wadi. But I think Wadi's still okay. But I think the last draft looks a lot better. I think the Alonso move, or last two, in fact, I think Alonso and James both are decent options. I would not want to go for Rudiger right now. Jota in for Foden or Rafinha. I think if you can, you know, stay with Foden, I would probably advise you to stay with Foden and not transfer him out. Rafinha, I know a lot of people are saying that Rafinha for the next 3 game weeks looks okay. I think Bamford is also due a return in this particular time, and I generally feel there's a good chance that Rafinha could do well in the next 3 games. Having said that, his general numbers, right, his XG numbers have been, he's been overperforming his XG numbers. That means he's whatever he's scoring, right, the chances are not of that higher potential, right? And he's still finishing. So that could be overperformance. But on the other hand, he's really underperforming in terms of his assists, right? So he's getting a lot of chances. He's creating a lot of chances. So his expected assist numbers are really high. But because of how Leeds finish, and because of no one being a proper finisher, because you don't consider the likes of James, Harrison, maybe even Rodrigo, Gelhardt as proper finishers, right? Bamford was that one player that could really finish from the Leeds team. And that's why Rafinha is a tricky one, but I would still probably want to hold Foden. I've not done that for my own team, and I've taken a hit for it. But generally, I think I would among the two, I would probably prioritize Rafinha, because I didn't have Rafinha in my team. I had already transferred him out, and that's why my route to Jota was one of the players was Foden, and I was not very confident. But I think move out Rafinha for Jota. What player should I use? Joel is asking, instead of Harry Kane. I have Vardy on the bench, so should I use him or buy another player to replace Antonio? Um, Again, it depends on if you really want to replace Antonio. I know, again, there are a lot of conversations about too many matches in the upcoming game weeks. A lot of a lot of matches, and Antonio might not play all the games. There is Carabao Cup quarterfinal against Spurs as well. So I'm assuming that's gonna be one fixture that he really probably won't play in any other circumstance. But because if it's a quarterfinal, I think he definitely plays this one. In general, I think he's gonna play in the league. He looks a lot better, playing in the league. I know his last few game weeks, his numbers have not been that great. His expected assists, his goal contributions have not been that great. But I would not be in a hurry to replace Antonio. I still feel, especially if you have money invested in him, right? I think there's a good chance that you hold Antonio, and you probably don't get him out. I think Vardy is okay instead of Harry Kane. Again, Vardy to Harry Kane is not a priority move, and I think Vardy is still okay. I think you can still use him. You don't have to really buy another player to replace Antonio at the moment. I know there are few routes to get to a King, for example, or a Dennis, maybe even a Benteke, but all of these are not very. You cannot compare these options to a Jota or maybe a James, maybe an Alonso, even an Alonso for that matter, right? So I think I would probably just have Antonio and just play Vardy instead of Harry Kane. Remember this comment when Tony scores a hat trick? We really, really hope that happens. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. There was so much expectation from Ivan Tony and Mbuemo. It's not really worked in that regard so far. People are still hopeful. A lot of people are still holding Ivan Tony. I still have him. I'm hopeful that he scores a hat trick. Everton have looked really weak, to be very honest. I don't know what's really happening there. I know they have injuries in terms of their attack, but I still don't know what's happening at the defense because Rafa Benitez is generally considered a defensive manager, a very defensively sound manager. He prides on those clean sheets from these tricky games, from those tough games in England. So I don't know what's happening, and I think Brentford being Brentford and the way they've played so far, I think there's a good chance that he can get something. A hat trick might be a bit too much, but yeah, let's see. Let's see. If Foden is out for quite a while, who's the best Man City attacker for the great run of fixtures? Honestly telling you, Shubham, I think I would avoid a Man City attacker. I know Foden is also okay, but of course, if he's out, he's not an option. I would not really want KDB. I would not really want Gundogan. I think the only option that I probably would want to look at would be Bernardo Silva, but traditionally Bernardo Silva hasn't been that great in terms of FPL, right? He's an absolute baller. He's a great footballer, but from an FPL perspective, I don't think so. He's generally been that great. This season is turning out to be a bit different. He's been very consistent. He's got consistent starts, which was a scarcity last year around. But because City has so many options, right? You have Kevin De Bruyne who's going to come back. Then I don't think so. Ferran Torres is back anytime soon. But then Grealish is also in the mix. You have Mahrez, you have Sterling. We've seen that Sterling has started a few games, right? Very recently, and that could be because of injuries to all these players. But still, Sterling has done pretty decent, and I think we know that Pep is gonna play the roulette. I think this Christmas period, it's very very hard to predict in terms of whether Bernardo is gonna play all minutes. Currently, it looks like that, but with all these attackers coming back, it's a risky bet or a risky game to play. And I'm very very happy that I probably got rid of Foden. I know the fixtures are really good, but the pep roulette is a bit too much for me, and I'll probably want to avoid that. So if you have to go for an attacker, I'll probably avoid an attacker. But if you have to go for one, I think I'll go for Bernardo Silva. What would you do with Foden? I already have Jota, and any transfer will be a -4. Also, what are your thoughts on Diaz to Alonso for a hit? It would be a save, a future move, which I will definitely make in Game Week 14. Brian, I think if you already have Jota, then you probably hold Foden. I won't get a Gallagher. I won't get a Smith Rowe. I won't get a Buemo. I won't even get a Son, for example, for a hit at all. The only player I would have gotten would be Jota, and you already have Jota, so I will just hold Foden. I'll hold Foden. I won't even do Foden to Bernardo Silva for a hit, to be very honest. I don't think so. It's worthy a hit because again, we never know. Bernardo Silva might just get benched. Foden might just play at the end of it, and you might just regret your move, especially if it's for a hit. So I would definitely avoid that. Now coming to Diaz to Alonso, I think Alonso looks nailed. There's a lot of rumor. There's a lot of conversation around whether Azpilicueta is going to play left wing back, whether there's going to be anyone else, whether James could play as as one of the three centre backs, and there could be some chopping and changing there. But in general, I think Alonso looks like the one. He gets the nod for majority fixtures until unless he really plays bad and is out of form. I think there's a good chance that Alonso gets majority minutes. Now Diaz, I still feel Diaz is okay. I know that from an attacking perspective, you're spending a lot of money and not really getting a lot of attacking upside. But whether I would want to do it for a hit, especially when Alonso is playing Man United, I know it's Man United, they've not been that great, but it's Man United at the end of the day, and we can still score. I know the Chelsea's defense is really tight. It's going to be a tough game. I'm not expecting them to score, but there is a chance, there is a possibility that after Ole is gone, there's some sort of a different environment and atmosphere in the club with Raniak also coming in. Things could be different. I know that he's of course not going to be there, but I still feel Alonso for a hit this week doesn't make sense. I'll probably save that transfer, save that move, and I'll do it next week. I'll also see 1 week worth of data in terms of how he's played, in terms of whether he's nailed. Let's say if Aspilicueta starts this one, I think then there's going to be a lot of heads turning for this particular week. So I think I'll avoid the hit. Is holding Boemo and Tony this week good? I'm assuming Surya, that's what you've written. Yes, I think it's good. I think both have a really good fixture. Everton have been really bad, to be very honest. They've not looked sound defensively. They're conceding a lot of chances. They're conceding a lot of shots. They're almost bottom in terms of all defensive statistics, and I think because of that, I would. I know it's a tough thing to go through this every week where you have good fixtures for Brentford, but they don't really return, especially Boemo. He's not really returned that many points. Tony is still okay because he scored last week. There was some respite for Tony owners, but for this week, I think it's a hold. Both you have to hold. I don't think so. There's any point of taking them out for this particular week. Shine, your team for this game week is Sanchez, Trent, James Cancelo, Salah, Jota, Rafinha, Gallagher, Timo Pukki, Kane, and Antonio. Like Sanchez, he's okay. Leeds, I think Brighton is playing Leeds, right? Yeah, yeah, I think it's okay. Um, yeah, the others are also decent. Trent, James Cancelo, all good. Salah, Jota, Rafinha, Gallagher. Rafinha is okay. It's not the worst player to have in your team. Pookie is also good. I think Wolves is going to be a tricky team to score against. Not really sure this particular week for Pookie, but in general, I think Pookie could be decent for the next few weeks. Kane Antonio, I'm okay holding. Antonio, of course, is playing a tough game. So for this particular week, I'll probably give it a 7.5. Probably not an 8, for example. Yeah, 8 would be a difficult thing considering that Antonio is playing City and you have a couple of Pookies. Probably an 8 this week, but in general, it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. This week, a bit trickier because of a couple of players having tough fixtures, but again, Antonio can still score against Man City. He's done that last season, but I think overall it's a good team. Craig, I transferred Antonio out for Benteke. Already have Jimenez and Kane. I think it's pretty solid. It's absolutely fine. Even if you take out Antonio, it's absolutely fine. I know I'm meriting a case for holding Antonio, maybe for keeping him in your team, but even if you take him out and get somebody else, it's absolutely fine. Benteke is a very interesting one. He's a great differential. Crystal Palace have been doing really well in terms of attack. Their fixtures are now looking a lot better than they were, a few game weeks back. And the kind of numbers that Vieira and Palace have shown, I think it's a solid transfer. The only slight concern that I have with Benteke is that he might not be 100% nailed. I know he's played majority minutes in the last few game weeks, but with Edward already in the mix, with Eze also coming in, I don't think so. Eze is directly going to affect the Benteke pick, but yeah, Vieira has options, and plus the whole Christmas period is a lot of fixtures, right? Not every player is gonna play every game week. There would be certain players that would be missing a few game weeks, and it's absolutely fine taking that chance. But I think if you want to go for a third striker, I think Benteke is probably a little over Timo Pukki, to be very honest. I think it's a good move. Nigel, should I start with the Chelsea defender James Alonso or Dennis from Watford? I think I would start with a Chelsea defender. I think the upside is massive, right? You have James, you have Alonso, you even have Rudiger, for example, who's done decent even from an attacking perspective. So I think the upside is massive. There's a chance that they can get a clean sheet. Not very high on the clean sheet potential, but in general, I think I would still go for that Chelsea attacker. The Yeah, I'm calling them attackers, but yeah, I would still go for a Chelsea defender over the Watford player. You reckon Mason Mount could be a good pick against United? I'm just wondering if I should wait another game week to transfer him out, given United's away. Yeah, I think Ashish, it could be a decent move, especially now with Lukaku and Werner coming back. They might play this week. Not 100% sure on that, but yeah, United's form has been really bad. So there's merit in holding him. I just feel that if you can do the Mount to Jota move for free, right? I think it's a great transfer to do. And there are some other decent options as well. I think they're better options than Mason Mount. I know United has been playing really bad, but I still feel they're better options, and you can even try to get a better score than probably a Mason Mount against United. Should I bench Vardy and get Jimenez and Tony? I think Jimenez and Tony is okay. I would not bench Vardy to be honest. I think I'll probably bench one of my defenders or one of my midfielders in your team, Rahul. I think Vardy has a very good fixture this week. I don't think so. You need to bench Vardy or Jimenez or Tony to be very honest. I think I'll play all three. I'll try to make a formation a 3-4-3 or maybe yeah, a 4-3-3 something like that. But I would definitely play all three. Shubham, how about Gabriel Jesus? Not very convinced about Gabriel Jesus. I don't think so. He will be nailed for all the upcoming game weeks. I know, again, it's very hard to say that for any City defender or maybe attacker right now. Maybe Cancelo is probably the most nailed. Edison probably, but attackers looks a bit tricky because yeah, there could be a chance that he misses a few games. I probably not go there. I think there are better options in that price. I think there are better options. Even if you don't want to go to that price, right? I think there's still good options in a lower bracket, and I think you can still take advantage of someone like a Bernardo Silva over a Gabriel Jesus. To be honest, Bernardo an option to consider. Thoughts, Akshat? Hi, and yeah, I think he's a decent option to consider. I think there's good potential. There has been good potential in him, and he's kind of going under the radar. We've not really talked about Bernardo a lot because we have options like KDB, we have options like Foden. Of course, we also have a defender in Cancelo. So a lot of people are going towards that route rather than going for a Chelsea for a Man City attacker. But I think in general, Bernardo Silva plays really well. The way he's done this season in terms of FPL, I think it's a bit of an eye opener for a lot of people because not a lot of people rate him highly in terms of FPL, and he's kind of proven that with his numbers. But in general, I think he's been one of the most consistent performers for City this season, and I think it's a bit tricky to bench him for Pep as well. He again he might come off on 70 minutes. He might play shorter time, or he might get benched for maybe a couple of games. But I think in general, it's a decent punt to consider. Savio, you took a -8 for Alonso, James, Jota, and Brownhill for Chilwell, Livramento, Foden, and Henderson. I think it's okay. You have Livramento doesn't really have the best of games, and I think it's fine to not have him. They're cheaper other options now because Livramento is no more a 4 million defender, right? So you have other options, which is fine. Chilwell is injured. Foden is also a doubt, and Henderson is okay. I think it's fine. I think a -8. Generally, -8s don't work, and you probably end up regretting those moves. But I think Alonso, James, Jota, they're really solid picks. I think it should be okay. Azhar, what do you think of Hudson Odoi? I think he knows that he needs to get his stats up to get in the England squad and has been playing really well. Yeah, I think he's done okay to be honest. He's been okay. I think against the again with Hudson Odoi, you don't really see him exploding every week. He's not even that consistent a performer. I know that he needs to get his form together in terms of playing for the England team, but I generally feel that there are better options in that price bracket. I think 5.3. I know it's a tricky bracket to be playing in, but I think more often than not, if they are you know uh, closer games, he might get a few points. If they are again not really sure on his potential, to be very honest, I think you probably would downgrade to a 4.5 million midfielder and probably save that money and make the upgrades either to a Jota, maybe to a Kane, maybe to a James, maybe to an Alonso. I think they're better moves there because expecting him to be consistent, be let's say 7-8 pointers like a Mason Mount for example is not even fair because I'm not even sure he's gonna get a shout considering that Werner is gonna be back, considering that Lukaku is gonna be back. Havertz is also a risk. You have Pulisic as well, so you have options, and I think I won't go there even if it means that getting a cheap Chelsea midfielder. Should I buy Gundogan or Bernardo? I think it's going to be Bernardo. Joel, I think Gundogan's number and his positioning, I think against Everton was really interesting. He was taking really good positions in and around the box, and I think that was a pleasant change. But in general, I think Gundogan, yeah, I'm not very sure on that. I think Bernardo has proven to be a better FPL player this year, and I think that's okay to have for at least this game week or probably even going forward. There's a possibility that after taking a -4, we may end up in a green arrow as well. Absolutely, absolutely, Akshat. And a really good point that you've made here, because I think a lot of people, they don't take hits because they feel that it's deducting 4 points, and they're probably gonna get a red, or the player's not gonna score, the player's not gonna do well. Of course, there's chances that the player might blank, but there is a great possibility that that player gets a big haul. Maybe of course, you might not be captaining him in this particular scenario, but in general, if you captain a player who you're getting in for a hit, and if he does really well, I think the hit, kind of really, it kind of makes sense to take that hit because it covers up really well, right? And there's a good chance that that player, let's say if someone you're getting a hit and taking a Jota in your team, maybe if you're getting a James, for example, in your team, I think these kind of players can easily make up for that hit for the upcoming in the upcoming games, even in the particular game week, right? Again, there's a good possibility that even James can haul big against a Man United team. There's there's absolutely, you can't say that that's not possible. Of course, it's slightly tricky because United's still a decent opposition, but I still feel taking a hit, I think people should be open to taking hits. Again, depends on what teams and what kind of structure you're playing, what kind of a manager you are, right? If you're a very safe manager, then probably not. But if you're okay taking a bit of a risk, and if you can, take advantage of these small situations, like for example, in Alonso, right? A few weeks back, you wouldn't have really imagined him being in the foray of starting for Chelsea. Maybe a couple of games, maybe a few minutes, especially in the Christmas period. But with the Chilwell injury, I think this is a really good opportunity. And if you probably have to take a hit for it, I think it's still worth it at the end. You can still be ahead of a lot of managers who might not be making that move because they're a little cautious and they are a little conscious about the decision that Alonso might not start, etc., etc. Right? So I think you have to find these window of opportunities, and taking hits in those window of opportunities, I think it really makes you stand out in terms of FPL. I think that's all I have to say there. Would Aspi start this week? Could start, but looks unlikely, to be honest. Yes, he might start the next one, but yeah, I don't think so he's starting. Shane, yeah, you've also kind of mentioned that. Don't think so. Aspi is going to start. -4 Aspi out for Reece James. I'll do it, Cian. I'll definitely do it. If it's for Reece James and if it's for a hit, I think it's absolutely fine. The kind of numbers that he's showing in terms of attacking stats, in terms of goal scoring, right? He looks like a proper goal scorer right now, and I think that's really good from an FPL perspective. He's been doing really well from a bonus perspective as well. He's creating chances. He's taking shots. I think it's an absolute no-brainer, as a lot of people say. But I think as P2, yeah, I'll take the hit. Peter Paul, captain, triple captain Bernardo. I probably won't do it. It's a huge risk. You never know with Pep. He might rest Bernardo and he might not play Bernardo this particular week, and then you're scratching your head in terms of what have you done for your team. So I'll probably triple captain Salah in this current scenario, but yeah, I think I'll wait for that triple captainship. Shubham, your team for this week, no transfers made till now. Schmeichel, Trent, Cancelo, Reguilon, Salah, Jota, Rafinha, Gallagher, Tony, Jimenez, Kane. I think it's okay, to be honest. The lack of a Chelsea defender is what is a little bothering me. You have Trent, Cancelo, Reguilon. I don't know who you have on your bench, but I'm assuming it's not a Chelsea defender, because if you have a Chelsea defender, then play that Chelsea defender. But I would probably want to get a Chelsea defender in the mix. At least James, if not Alonso. If you cannot afford James, then probably Alonso. But yeah, and if you have him, then definitely play them. But overall, it's a decent squad. But yeah, I would probably want to have that Chelsea defender. Salah, Jota is really good. Gallagher is really good. Rafinha is a okay hold. Tony, Jimenez, Kane, all good. Jimenez for the next 2 weeks, I think, is also pretty decent. So I think yeah, Jimenez has Norwich, Burnley for the next 2 weeks. Then from 15, I think gets a bit tricky. Then I think it's gonna play on your mind in terms of taking him out, and that's probably a sensible move. But I think in general, this is a decent team. Play Antonio White, I would still play Antonio. I know that Arsenal's playing Newcastle, but Newcastle can still score. Under Eddie Howe, they've done really well. They have good attacking stats, and Eddie Howe generally is a forefront manager. He likes to play on the forefront. He likes to be in attacking in terms of how he approaches games. He doesn't really care a lot about his defenses. So they can still be a team to target in terms of any team's opposition's attack. But I think I'll still play Antonio. There's a good there can be a chance where Antonio gets something right. It's not the end of the world if he scores a goal against Man City. I won't be very surprised. We'll take up next one. Chilwell to Alonso for a hit. I have Rudiger to play if I keep Chilwell. I have Rudiger to play if I keep Chilwell. Uh, I also have Foden, so if he doesn't play, it'll be Antonio off the bench. I again, it's not a priority transfer to be honest. I think it's okay to probably wait a week and then not take that hit because you have options that you can play from your bench. But yeah, I think I won't take the hit this week. It's Man United. It's going to be a bit tricky, and you never know. They might just concede. There's a good chance that they concede. I won't be surprised there. Savio, thoughts on differentials like Cornet and Watkins? Um, I think Cornet has been pretty decent. I think not a lot of people have really got onto the Cornet train because it's Burnley, because it's a Burnley attacker. But I think Burnley has been playing really attractive football, and it's surprising that Burnley, it's totally opposite in terms of how Burnley play, and that's why I think a lot of people are kind of not understanding what to make out of it because his stats have been really good. He's been overperforming his xG numbers, so there's a chance that he could have scored lower or less points. But I think my only worry is that it's probably going to be a short term move because Burnley have okay fixtures. They don't have the best of fixtures, but I think in general, because Cornet might leave for Afcon, I think that is something that worries me. Getting him in my team, I think I'll probably look elsewhere in terms of transfers, and I'll probably not get him just yet. Yeah, so looking at the fixtures. I think Tottenham, Wolves, Newcastle, West Ham, Watford, not the best in any capacity. Then they have Villa, Everton, United. Yeah, I'll probably avoid. I'll look elsewhere for a differential probably. Watkins is an interesting one because I think under Gerrard, Villa is going to be really attacking as they were against in under Dean Smith. I think defensively they're going to be very sound. So I think Watkins could be an interesting pick. I think from game week 17 or 18 is when their fixtures are really good. Let's just quickly check that. Yeah. So they have 17 they have Norwich, then 18 they have Burnley, then Chelsea, Leeds, Brentford. I think that's a good run. They have United as well in 22, but I think if I really have to consider changing a forward, I think that is the time I kind of move there, and he could be a decent option. I think he it's just that with Ings his position has been kind of nowhere, to be very honest. He, of course, he's been tried on the wings, he's been tried alongside Ings as well. So it's going to be interesting how Gerard utilizes him in the longer run, but I think in general he could be a decent option. Shan, this might be just me because I am a Chelsea fan, but I would want to keep an eye on Werner now. But yeah, absolutely, because he looks amazing midweek. He looked amazing midweek. Sorry for that, and didn't miss any chance. And for the first time, he scored in after. Yeah, I think Werner has still been. He's been okay. He's been very frustrating to be honest, because of how many times he's got offside, how many times he's had his goals disallowed. I think that's generally been a worry. But I think in general, I would definitely want to keep an eye on Werner. I think there's a good chance that he could start giving us decent FPL points because right now betting on a Chelsea attacker is a bit tricky because you don't know which one to go for, right? We all had Lukaku. Lukaku got injured, and that was a big disappointment. We all got Havertz. He didn't perform. Again, a disappointment. So betting on a Chelsea attacker, a lot of people got Mount as well, right? After that massive one game week haul, I think a lot of people went there. It was always a trap. But betting on a Chelsea attacker is a bit tricky, but I would definitely want to keep tabs on Werner. Absolutely right. Joshua, should I go for Foden to Jota? I think I will do that. If it's for a free, absolutely. Even if it's for a hit, I personally think it's okay. Totally depends on how you think about the game and how if you're okay taking a hit for that as well. But on a free transfer, I'll think I'll probably make that move. Should I bench Foden or Antonio or sub Foden for Jota for a -4? Again, it's not a mandatory transfer to be honest. If you don't want to take a hit, if you want to keep Foden, right? I would again repeat this that Foden might not be injured or out for long term. He might miss this game week, might even miss the next one. Again, I'm just speculating here, so don't take my word on my absolute word on it. But I think there's a chance that he misses this one. But if he's nearing fitness, I think he plays the next one. I don't think so. He's gonna miss the next 3-4 game weeks until unless something extra happens which we don't know about, or something new comes up which the FPL world is not aware about. So in general, I think it's not a priority move. Antonio is also a decent hold and could score against Man City. Again, not saying that he will, but anything can happen in football at the end of it. If you are okay letting go of Foden for the run of fixtures, because I think a lot of people bought him for this run of fixtures, right? And you're just transferring Jota in and Foden out just before this run starts. So in case if that's a worry and you feel that Foden is probably nailed and he's gonna play majority minutes, he's gonna do well. I think he will do well. He will do decent. His overall underlying stats have been pretty good. So if you believe that he could give you decent points and probably hold him, but I think Jota looks the better move, to be very honest. I think I will personally make that move for a hit. I know it's for a hit and it might not come off this week, but I think over the next few weeks, I think it should be okay. Xavier, you're saying Havertz plus Aspi to Jota plus James? Absolutely, yeah. It's worth a hit. I think with Jota and James, you're getting two really good players who should be playing more often than not in the next few weeks. Both have great attacking potential. Jota especially has really good potential. Considering that Liverpool would also lose Salah and Mane when the AFCON starts, I think that also nails his spot because he's definitely above the likes of Origi and Minamino, right? And he's probably going to lead the line for Liverpool. So I would definitely have Jota in my team. It's worth a hit. Foden to Jota, I would do it. Yeah, I think it's again, it's not a priority move, to be very honest. You can still hold Foden and play the Pep roulette, trust Pep absolutely. And I don't. I probably thought that it's not worth the headache. It's not worth the lack of sleep every week. So I probably moved him out, but it's still a okay hold. Uh, I would do it. I personally would do it because I feel Jota has better potential to outscore Foden in the next few weeks. But even if you hold him, it's absolutely fine. James or Alonso, considering the price difference, chances of starting. I think if you can afford James, I would definitely have James. If James is not possible, Alonso is a good player. He's been decent in attack. He's always been decent in attack. I think the left wing back spot is probably nailed. I don't think so. He can play anywhere else, and he really suits the system, to be honest. So I think he's gonna do well. So if you have money, go James. Absolutely no doubt about that. If you can't afford, do Alonso. I know that there's a slight price difference, but I think James is definitely worth the extra price. The chances starting are a bit higher for James, to be very honest. I think he can also play in a couple of positions. I know if he plays as a three in one of the centre back positions, the potential kind of comes down, the attacking upside especially. But I think if I really have to rate both of them in terms of starts, I'll probably rate James a lot higher than Alonso. Yes, Aspilicueta is an option, but there could be some funny lineups coming in the next few weeks. Alonso could be benched for a few games. I won't be really surprised. I know everybody is after Alonso and they really feel confident in Alonso starting, but I personally think that Alonso could miss a few games. And yeah, so I'll probably prioritize James over Alonso if I have the money. Good morning. One free transfer with no money in the bank. Chilwell to Alonso, Rudiger for free, or Chilwell to James and Foden to Jota for a hit. I think if you're not confident on the on the Foden news, sorry, you can still hold him. Though having said that, Foden to Jota for a hit and Chilwell to James, I think it's a decent move to make. The only reason I'm saying this is because Foden is an injury doubt. He's carrying a knock, so he could miss this week because the next game week is also very very quick. He could also have limited minutes if not missing the entire game week. So I think taking that hit again, you won't really feel that unless of course Jota really scores a couple of goals and really goes crazy. In general, you might feel the hit might didn't work for this particular week, but if you're taking that hit, at least have faith for a couple of weeks, see what's gonna happen, see how these players perform. And I think in general, I feel Jota is gonna be absolutely sure to, for you to be comfortable about that hit, because I think the fixtures are there. I think he can still do really well. Firmino's still not back yet, so it's a good chance for him to, be in the lineup and do well. Probably convince Klopp of starting him over Firmino. So yeah, I think I'll take the hit. I'll take the hit. I would definitely want to attack with Jota rather than have Foden, to be honest. Whom should I captain? Trent or Salah have taken a hit, so want to make it up. So kind of leaning towards captaining Trent, but your thoughts? I think Southampton is a good fixture for Salah. I think I was reading he has really good numbers against Southampton. Having said that, the clean sheet potential also looks really good. And we've seen that Trent can outscore Salah, is doing that over the past week or so. So I think, yes, Trent, again, don't think it from a perspective that you have to make it up because you've taken a hit. You don't really have to do that, absolutely. If Salah is the absolute choice, you probably go ahead with Salah and you're trying to go a bit differential with your hits. But I think there's merit in captaining Trent this week. But yeah, again, at the end of it, if Southampton score somehow, the clean sheet's gone. Even if he gets an attacking potential, then he might not end up on the bonus if Salah returns. And if he, I still feel Salah might not outscore Trent by a lot this week. I think it's going to be really close. So you probably won't have a lot to lose. So I'll probably just go Trent, but it's a very very tricky call. If you're even slightly worried or confused, right, absolutely don't do it, because then you will be cursing yourself that why did you go for Trent as your captain pick. I think Salah is that safe and he's been that good. Plus, I know not a lot of people or a lot of people consider the effective ownership conversation, but again, for me, it's kind of a mid ground where it affects to a certain extent, but that's not the only thing that affects my decision, to be honest. But yeah, I'll if you're okay taking the grunt if Trent doesn't do anything, then go for it. Otherwise, just be safe and play Salah. What do you think about Harvey Barnes? Leicester have amazing fixtures. Yes, they do have amazing fixtures. Newcastle, Tottenham, Everton, City, Liverpool, tricky. Then they have Norwich, Burnley. It's okay, to be honest, but they've not shown any form, have they? It's just not been there. From an attacking perspective, a lot of people got in Vardy. I also got in Vardy. Didn't work out. Tielemans is out. A couple of other players are also out. They don't even have. I think they don't even have Johnny Evans. I think, though of course he's a defender, but I think the overall play of Leicester is gonna get affected, and I would probably just look for a couple of weeks in terms of how they do before jumping on to. I know I'll be missing out on a couple of good game weeks, but Tottenham's not going to be that easy. Everton maybe. Then they have City, Liverpool. So yeah, I'll probably not go there just yet, but I'll keep a tab on Harvey Barnes in terms of what potential can he give us. Bernardo, Tony, Gallagher, or Wadi, who should I vice captain? I think I'll probably vice captain Tony. I know it's a tricky one, but I think I'll probably vice captain Tony. I think Everton have been really bad, so if I really have to pick one player scoring the majority points this particular week, I'll probably go for Tony out of the three. So I think Tony would be there. Yeah, Vardy. Yeah, it's a tricky one because Vardy also has Watford, and they've also been not been that great, to be honest, right? But again, it's at the end of it's Vardy. I think I still feel I'd probably go with Tony. I know it's a tricky one, but I'll probably go with Tony. Do you think not knowing a Man City attacker can be rewarding since guessing Pepper? Yeah, absolutely, Akshat. And again, a really good point. Edison is, yes, he's probably the most nailed in terms of the Man City team, but you probably won't want to have a very expensive goalkeeper. Having said that, he's still the most nailed. So if that's how you think, it's absolutely fine. I personally would not want to have Edison, but I think in general, not having a Man City attacker, I think it could be okay. I think you're not really losing out on too much, right? Because if you look at the ownership of Man City attackers or a midfielder or maybe even a forward, for example, I don't think so. It's very very high, right? So you're not really losing out on maybe ownership, or of course their run is still decent and having them could be a good differential in a way of sorts. But I think guessing the pep roulette every week and guessing what players play with the injuries that are happening, with of course there could be a few games where someone like a Bernardo also gets a knock, right? Or a Gundogan gets a knock, and you have those players. So I'll probably just have Cancelo. I think Cancelo is still a must-have, to be honest. I think he's still a decent player, but yes, he could also be rotated, and the likes of Zinchenko coming in. But I still feel, yeah, you probably don't want to take that headache when you have someone like a Jota who might have regular starts, when you have someone like a Gallagher who would play regularly. So I think there are options there, right? So I think avoiding a Man City attacker is also absolutely fine. I think it's a safer play. But if you're a slightly, a maverick manager, and you're okay taking a bit of a risk, you're okay taking a bit of benchings, maybe a couple of games for your Man City players, then you probably look there. But I think in general, I think it's probably a best avoid. You have Chilwell on your bench, and you're waiting to make a move on James Alonso because Alonso looks pretty nailed. Yeah, I think. Nah, I would still, if you can afford James Shubham, I would definitely get James. I think there, I know you might think that Alonso is cheaper. You might save some money. If that's not a consideration, yes, he could be at rotation risk. James could still miss it, but the attacking upside with James is so huge, right? Alonso also gives you that attacking upside, but I still feel James, with the form that he's in right now, I don't think so he's going to be benched for a lot of games. He could still come on for the last 20, 30 minutes, and even then he can give you points, right? So if I'm okay, if I in terms of funds, in terms of finances, I think I would still go for James. I won't go for Alonso. What to do as an SP owner? I really feel bad for SP owners right now because I also had him. I thought it's a cheeky move to get him along with Rudiger, or probably in place of Rudiger at the time. And I really thought that it could be a great differential because I knew that not a lot of people would be going for Aspilicueta, but it just didn't work, did it? He got that. I think he was a shoulder injury, and then he's been fit, but he's not started. Of course, Chilwell and Reece James have been doing really great. So there it was a bit tricky. In terms of the back three as well, I think there will be some chopping and changing. Yes, Tuchel has a lot of options, and Aspilicueta might not be, that great player anymore, or that good of a player anymore. You have the likes of Chalobah, you have the likes of Christensen as well, who could be better defenders at the moment, right? So yeah, you probably just go to James if you can. I won't hold Aspilicueta. If you can't afford James, then Alonso it is, but I would definitely not hold Aspilicueta. Your thoughts on Antonio Fred Jones? Antonio is a good option still. I know he has tricky fixtures. He also has a lot of fixtures, so he might get injured. He might get benched for a few games, but we've seen that West Ham can play with Bowen up top as probably a false nine, but they don't really have a recognized striker, do they? And I think that is where Antonio would get majority minutes. Yes, he might come off, 60, 70 minutes, might be rested for the odd 20 or the odd 15, so that he can be refreshed for the next game. But I think in general, Antonio's still an okay option till the time, let's say, if you are, falling short of cash for funding a Kane or funding a Jota or funding a James or maybe one of the premium defenders, maybe a Trent, for example, maybe a Cancelo, for example, then I'll probably, sell him and do the downgrade to a cheaper attacker, a cheaper forward. But I think in general, he can still be okay because if you have a lot of money invested in him, because I bought him, I think at 7.5, I think, and I'll be selling him for 7.8. He's currently 8.1. So you have a lot of money invested if you are in my kind of category. And if you plan to buy him again, then it might get a bit tricky to for you to buy him because you bought him at a very cheaper, like a very cheap price, right? And his fixtures from game week 18 are pretty good. If you look at the likes of Norwich, Southampton, Watford, Palace, Leeds, I think they're really good fixtures, and I think you would probably want to have at least one West Ham attacker. So in case if you don't go for Antonio, you probably go for a Bowen, but I still feel Antonio is the better option. Overall, I still feel he's the better option, even if his numbers have kind of gone down in the past few game weeks. I still feel he can still do well. Thoughts on City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, and Liverpool keeping a clean sheet? I think Chelsea's. I'm not sure about the odds, but I think Chelsea could be a tricky one. Arsenal also. I'm not very sure about an Arsenal clean sheet. Spurs could keep a clean sheet. Liverpool, I think the most likely team to keep a clean sheet this week looks looks like Liverpool. I think Southampton have don't have a great record against Liverpool. This season they've been okay, but I think in general, if I have to rate these teams in keeping a clean sheet, I think Liverpool will be number one. Then probably it will be Spurs. Then I think it'll probably be City, Chelsea, Arsenal, not in any particular order, but I don't think so. City, Chelsea, Arsenal. I personally don't think that they'll keep a clean sheet. Could be totally wrong here. Would you start Dennis or Tony? I would definitely start Tony this particular week. I think he's a better option. Everton have been really bad in defense. I think they're conceding a lot of goals, a lot of chances as well. So I think if there's an option between starting between both, I think Tony looks like the better one to go for. We're doing Rudiger to Alonso or Foden to Bernardo. I'll just take that in a sec. I think it's okay doing Rudiger to Alonso. Foden to Bernardo, I still might not do just yet. It's a City attacker at the end of the day. You don't really know what's going to happen with Man City with all these tougher, not tougher fixtures. Sorry, all this fixture congestion. I think the Pep roulette is going to be in full swing, and we've seen the past season. We saw last season as well. You absolutely can't predict Pep. It's a madhouse to be honest, and I would just probably want to just keep Foden, not chop and change, waste my transfers there. I think if Foden is fine, if he's not injured long term, he still could be a decent pick. So I'll probably go Rudiger to Alonso. I think there is a good attacking upside to be to be caught there, and I think Alonso could be nailed in the left wing back spot. Mukil Buemo or Rafinha? I would probably go with Buemo this week. I think Rafinha also could score against Brighton, but I think Buemo has the better fixture. I think Everton have been really poor, and out of the two, I think Buemo could outscore Rafinha. Brighton is still a decent defense. They're not the worst team in the world, so I'll probably go with Buemo. But Buemo to ESR for a hit, nah, I won't do it. I think Buemo for this week it's okay. He can still be a decent bench option because Brentford don't they don't have the best of fixtures, but they don't really have really bad fixtures as well. So I think you can still have a Brentford attacker on your bench for games like Tottenham, Leeds, Watford, Southampton. You can even play them against the likes of Leeds, Watford, right? Maybe even against United. Not sure about that, but I think it's okay to have Buemo. I don't think so. I If this move was for free, I'll probably do it. Again, not still not very sure there, but not for a hit. Absolutely not for a hit. I know when I say not for a hit, and then ESR comes up and gives like a 10-15 pointer haul, but yeah. Generally, how FPL works and how the game works, it's not a practical decision to do a hit for this combination, but yeah. How to get Cancelo on the team? You have zero point 0.2 in the bank, and your defenders Trent, James, Rudiger, Livramento, and White. Um, so Johan, one way to get Cancelo would be, of course, to get rid of White probably. Livramento, White again. I think I'll probably get rid of White, and I will probably make some downgrades in my midfield or my attack, depending on who you have in your midfield and attack. If you have someone like an Antonio, for example, if you have maybe a Son. I won't do a downgrade from Son, to be honest. If you have, by any chance, if you have a KDB, for example, or maybe an expensive player that you can downgrade, maybe even a Rafinha. Let's say if you have a Rafinha and if you want to get this money, probably get Rafinha out, take a 4.5, probably a Gilmore, for example, who could still be okay, and you can also play him for a couple of weeks. He's not the worst player again, and probably that's one of the a couple of routes in terms of getting Cancelo in your team. Would you take a -4 to transfer out Ronaldo to Kane? I won't do it. No, I won't transfer out Ronaldo to Kane and take a hit for it. Yes, Tottenham. There've been a lot of conversation about Tottenham in terms of how they're going to play, what's going to happen to them. Conte's absolutely going to change and be magical, and the club is going to change in a day. It's not going to happen, of course. It might take some time, but Ronaldo has decent fixtures. The Ole, sacking and him leaving, I think it could lead to a turn of events where we probably get a lot better. We could see the likes of Van de Beek and Sancho getting regular minutes. We could probably see the likes of Fred and the few non-performing players dropping onto the bench. Could happen, and Ronaldo could still be okay. Raniak, I think, of course, he likes a pressing game as whatever I've read and seen in the past. But I think in general, Ronaldo could still be okay. Probably long term, I would probably want to also look at options like Bruno Fernandes. I think he could still become an option. Players like Sancho could also become an option, but I think for now, Ronaldo to Kane for a hit, I won't do it. Foden to Jota, Kevin, it's worth it. Yes, it's absolutely worth it. If it's for a free, absolutely worth it. I think Jota is gonna outscore Foden in the coming game weeks. I think he gets more minutes than Foden. Foden has a lot of competition to play against. Jota won't be having that competition. Then you have AFCON coming up. You will have the likes of Salah and Mane missing and going for AFCON. So he's definitely nailed at that time, and that could be a decent duration. With games coming thick and fast, I think his fitness, slight question marks over his fitness because he tends to get injured, tends to get a couple of knocks and niggles. But I think in general, I would make that transfer. Thoughts on Chaloba? I think yeah, he's a decent defender and he's been doing well. He's been scoring. He's part of the Chelsea defense, which keeps clean sheets as well. He's okay in terms of bonus points, but overall he's not nailed, right? You cannot say that Chalobah is nailed, and I think for that reason he just. I know that he's cheaper, and he's not very very expensive or as expensive as a Rudiger, for example. But at 4.8, again, I probably would go for a different defender. I'll probably try to go for an Emerson Royale or maybe even a Regulon, which could be another great differential, and I can stick to the big guns like an Alonso, for example, or maybe even Reece James, for example, and have them instead of Chalobah. I think he's okay. He could still get minutes, considering that there could be some chopping and changing among the back three, but I don't think so. I would have him in my team, to be honest. Steven, should I transfer Rudiger to Alonso with one transfer and I don't have Reece James? I think if you don't have Reece James, you try to get Reece James. I'm assuming you won't have the funds. If you don't have the funds, then Alonso is absolutely fine. But if you can afford Reece James, definitely go for Reece James. I think Alonso still comes below James in terms of expected points, in terms of how well he can do in the upcoming game weeks. Would you captain Mane over Salah? Because everyone will be captaining Salah. Mark, I know everyone is captaining Salah, so it's safer. So you're not losing out on anything, but at the same time, you're not gaining anything as well, right? And I think in general, I think I would still captain Salah. I think Mane is too big of a risk, to be honest. I think, yeah, I think yes, Mane can score. He can do well. He probably can even outscore Salah. But yeah, it's just Salah in the form that he is in. It's just how well he's playing. It's just how many people are captaining him. So if you're okay going differential and if you're okay taking that risk, then it's fine. But I probably won't be doing that. If I really have to take chances, I'll probably go for a Trent who could be even more explosive, right? Gaming zone. Your team is Sasemedo, Duffy, Rudiger, Trent, Cancelo, Havertz, Sar, excuse me, Salah, Rafinha, Buemo, Wadi, and Antonio. You have two free transfers. You have zero point 0.5 million in the bank. Can you suggest some transfers? I think in terms of the defense, you can probably upgrade a Semedo. Probably not this week, but Semedo to maybe an Alonso could be an option. I'm also considering one of that moves probably next week, not this week. Then Duffy is, I think, is okay. I think Havertz to Jota can be a good move because you don't have Jota. I think that could be really good. I think that I'm not sure, but I don't think so. That's going to give you money for a Kane. But in that case, you could have done Y to Kane. But I think you can save that one transfer. I think Sar is he injured? I think he's injured. Not sure. We'll have to check on that. Yeah, I think Sar is definitely not. He has a knee injury, so I'll probably take out Sar, and with that money, I can probably go to, if I can go to a Bernardo Silva. I think Bernardo Silva is pretty good. If I can't, then I'll probably go to a Gallagher instead. I think Gallagher has decent potential. So you make use of those two transfers. I think when you do all of this, I think you'll also be having some money in the bank, which can also help you make some other upgrades, maybe a Y to a Kane, for example. Is Gray playing? I don't think so. He's playing. Not sure. Could be a doubt. I think he could be a doubt. He might not play this one. You think starting Antonio over Ronaldo is a bad decision? You have three Chelsea defenders. I wish. Yeah, I would not start Antonio over Ronaldo. I think I know that he can still score. He can still give you an odd goal or so, and it could be a crazy result. I don't think so. It's going to be a very very high scoring game for both teams. I think City is definitely going to dominate. But yeah, I think I'll play Ronaldo. I still would play Ronaldo. I know both teams have tough fixtures, but you never know with Ronaldo what happens, right? He can still score a goal out of nowhere. When United needs him, I think he definitely comes to help us in majority way. So I think I'll probably play Ronaldo. Johan, has Mane gone under the radar? Yes, he's gone under the radar. It's just because how Salah is, right? Now, when you look at both players, both have been really good. Salah has been in a world of his own, so he's definitely. I know that you can compare him considering how they were priced initially at the early part of the season, but the way things have gone, I think Mane has of course reduced a lot in price, and I think Salah has probably increased to probably 13 million right now, and that's really really expensive. So in general, I think yes, Mane has gone a bit under the radar, but Salah is just a more trustable captain choice as well. You probably won't captain Mane because some weeks he will, go massive. He will give you a lot of points. Some weeks he probably won't give you anything, right? But with Salah, you're getting consistency. I think the only game that he's blanked this season was the Burnley game this season, and I think because of that, you can't really bet. Of course, you can have Mane as a double up, but I think in general, captaining him, etc., is a bit tricky. So yes, he's gone a bit under the radar, but it's just because how good Salah has been, and I think to get to that level, I think Mane will really have to kick it up a couple of notches at least. Start one of Cash, Duffy, and Rafinha. I would probably start Villa's playing Palace. That's not going to be that easy. Duffy's playing. I'll probably start Duffy to be honest. Yeah, Rafinha against Brighton could also. I think I'll probably start Rafinha. He's an attacker. Always start an attacker over a defender. Defender could lose a clean sheet, and Leeds could still score. So I'll probably start Rafinha over all three among the all options. Shan with Raniak coming in, and I'm a bit scared of United attack now. This might be controversial. If Raniak gets the attack firing, then it can be the best attack in the league. Still not sure whether it's going to be the best attack because you have teams who are really good. You have the likes of Liverpool who've done really well. You have Chelsea as well, whose attackers are a bit tricky from an FPL perspective. But you have Man City as well, who don't have a proper striker, but they're still doing okay. The United's overall game, I think, is gonna get a lot better. Ranić is generally known for his pressing ability and his pressing play. Yes, he's a very good tactical manager. I think he's a very cunning appointment as well for the next 6 months. I think he's gonna stabilize in terms of what's happening. I don't think so. Michael Carrick is a good coach, right? But he's not manager level just yet, and I don't think so. He can do that for United. Absolutely not. So I think he there's a good chance that he can get this attack firing. My only concern is that we have players like Ronaldo, we have players like Greenwood, and even Martial who don't really like to press a lot, right? And I was reading his comments, and it's just been funny in terms of how he considers pressing and what he thinks about half pressing and a little pressing, and those comments were hilarious. But I think in general, it'll be interesting to see how he manages Ronaldo, because of course he cannot bench Ronaldo, right? So he'll probably has to make Ronaldo play a little deeper, play Ronaldo alongside with somebody, maybe a Greenwood, maybe a Rashford, for example, maybe Cavani as well. There are options, and there are certain players who can press well. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I think in general, the attack is gonna get better. I still feel the attack is still pretty good. It's the defense that needs a lot of sorting out, because that DM position plus our centre backs, even the likes of Van Bissaka, even Shaw in certain moments, they've not looked that great at all, right? And it could be different, but yeah, I'm not really jumping to any conclusions. I think interesting times for a United fan, because something else is happening. There is some change that is happening, and I think you can just see that the way I'm smiling at the moment. I think let's see how it happens, but yeah, really looking forward to it. Should you start Grealish or Antonio? I think I would probably start. Not sure Grealish returns this game week, so I'll probably start Antonio. Grealish, again, I'll probably not even have Grealish in my team, to be very honest. But among the two, I'll probably have Antonio starting this week. Chilwell, Livramento, Gray for a -8 for Trent, Cancelo, and what other midfielder should I get for 7 million? I'm thinking of Gallagher, can't afford Jota unless I sell Rafinha and keep Gray. Nah, I think I won't keep Gray. Yeah. Trent, Cancelo, and probably Gallagher. I think Gallagher is decent. Probably think of something else to get in Jota. You probably sell Rafinha later on and try to make some money from elsewhere. But I think for a -8, Jenny don't like -8, but you're getting players like Trent, Cancelo, and even Gallagher is a decent option right now, right? So I think generally, yeah, I probably would take a -4 as you were mentioning in the next point. Do you think it's worth selling Rafinha for Jota and take another? I won't take another -4. Absolutely, I won't take a -12. No chance. But yeah, -8 for Gallagher. I think it's okay. If you can avoid that -4, the extra -4 as well, and get maybe even one of Cancelo and Trent, that could also work. But I don't know how you do it. But yeah, -8, -12. Not a huge fan of it. Removing White for Alonso, need to downgrade Boemo and adjust 1 million. Who should I get? I think I'll probably get someone like a Gilmore, because he's 4.4, I think, right now. I think Dean Smith recognizes him as one of the main players in the Norwich setup. I don't think so. He's gonna play as deep as he was playing before. I think Norman would take that responsibility, and he showed in the last game that he can create chances. I think he played really well. He can also be on set pieces. I think as we're seeing from the last week. So I'll probably get those players ahead of you know get him ahead of these players. Probably even a Brownhill, for example. I think with Gilmer, I think you can still take advantage of something there. In the worst case scenario, there could be a chance that he gets something, and you probably get him off the bench and get some points, or even probably play him, because Norwich have okay fixtures. They don't have the best of fixtures, but yeah, I'd probably play him ahead of someone like a Douglas Lewis, or any 4.5 million option. Savio, your team is Guaita, Trent, James, Alonso, Cancelo, Salah, Jota, Son, Vardy, Tony, and Wang. On the bench, you have Buemo, White, and Brownhill. Suggestions for congested future weeks. So Trent is pretty much nailed. James, Alonso, Cancelo a bit risky in terms of starts. You have Buemo who's gonna play. You have Brownhill who's not the best option, but he's still okay. Then you have. I think I'll probably transfer out White to maybe a Mitchell, for example, or even Guai, for example, from Palace. I think Palace has a decent defense. Their fixtures are looking okay, so that could be an option. I think that could be one move. You could also do upgrades. You can probably get a Kane, for example, who might be more nailed than a Vardy. I think Vardy can still get rested. I think Wang has tough fixtures after a couple of weeks, so removing Wang could also be an option. You can get someone like a Benteke if you have the extra money. You can also go for a Pookie, maybe even a King. I think the order would be Benteke, Pookie, and King. But those are certain options that you can go for. Salah, Jota, I think are pretty much nailed. Son is also pretty much nailed, and I would definitely keep them. Yeah, so that these are the options that you can go for. I think there are certain smaller upgrades that you can do, but overall looks like a really good team. Avish, thank you so much, and good luck to you as well. I really, really hope you have a great game weekend. You can show off with great FPL points this time around. Part start Buemo or Ben White. I will start Buemo. He's an attacker, out of playing position, out of playing forward, as you call it. Might even play on the wing. Not really sure there, but yeah, it depends on what setup Brentford use. But I think because he's an attacker, he has better upside. He can score a goal. He has decent numbers in terms of chances that he's getting. Oh my god, how many times has he hit the post? And when will those goals go in? Like, do we have to wait the entire season for it? I'm not sure. But yeah, I'll probably start Buemo ahead of White. Bench Antonio or Rudiger. Uh, Tricky one. But I think I'll bench Antonio. I'll still play Rudiger. Considering it's Man United, I know it's a bit tricky, but I'd still play Rudiger. It's just so difficult to bench a Chelsea defender. I know the way they've been playing, the way Chelsea has been playing, might not be, it won't be a surprise to a lot of people if they, carve out a 1-0 or a 2-0 win and keep a clean sheet, right? So I think I'll still play Rudiger. Thoughts on your team? Ramsdale, Trent, Reguilon, Cancelo, James, Smith Rowe, Jota, Salah, Gallagher, Son, and Kane. Son and Kane is a bit tricky because, of course, you look like a Tottenham fan. So Son and Kane looks okay. Regular triple up is okay, but I think Son and Kane is probably investing too much in Tottenham right away. I really hope it comes off, but that's a bit tricky. Overall, I think it's still a very decent team. You have Trent, Reguilon, Cancelo. You have James as well. Smith Rowe, Jota, Salah, Gallagher. I think it's a pretty strong team, to be honest. I think your bench might be a bit weak. I'm not sure what's your bench like, but at least have players who can give you 90 minutes, even if they are not attacking players, even if they are not players who